Honourable Minister of Defence of the Republic of Rwanda, Excellencies, Ambassadors, Assistant Secretary General for Africa, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chief of Defence Staff of the Rwanda Defence Force, heads of security organs, Rwanda National Police, Rwanda Correction Services, the Force Commander, United Nations Mission in South Sudan, heads of delegation here present, UN officials, distinguished panelists and moderators of this conference, generals and senior officers here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to this preparatory conference for the 2023 Peacekeeping Ministerial on Protection of Civilians and Strategic Communication, organized and hosted by Rwanda, Indonesia, United Kingdom, and the Kingdom of Netherlands. I'm Brigadier General Ronald Rivanga, the Master of Ceremonies of this event. Guest of honor, sir, permit me to briefly take you through the program of this conference. This preparatory conference will cover a total of 4 sessions in 2 days. We'll start shortly with the official opening ceremony, which will include the opening remarks by the guest of honor, the Honourable Minister of Defence, followed by remarks from the Director, Security Policy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands. Then finally, we'll have remarks by the United Nations Assistant Secretary General for Africa. This will be followed by a group photo before we begin the first session to discuss the evolving context of peacekeeping operations. We will thereafter break for lunch at approximately 13:30 and return in the afternoon at 1500 hours for the second and final session of the first day, which will focus on protection of civilians in peacekeeping operations. We will break off to our respective destinations later in the afternoon and converge again for dinner at 1900 hours here at the Serena, and this will mark the end of the day 1. On the second day, we will have 2 sessions, one on strategic communication and disinformation, misinformation and hate speech, from 9 to 10:30 in the morning, followed by the 4th and final session on the interplay between protection of civilians and strategic communication. And finally, we'll have the closing ceremony before breaking off for lunch. Without further ado, it is my honor to invite our guest of honor, the Honourable Minister of Defence of the Republic of Rwanda, to give his opening remarks. Sir, you're welcome to the podium.
The Assistant Secretary General for Africa, Excellent Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chief of Defence Staff, Rwanda Defence Force, the Inspector General of Rwanda National Police, other heads of security organs here present, heads of delegations, UN officials here present, panelists and moderators, generals and senior officers here present, distinguished guest participants, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good morning. Let me begin by extending a warm welcome to our guests, to Rwanda and to Kigali, where I believe you are already feeling at home. For those who are here for the first time, we want you to feel among good friends. It is my pleasure and honor to join you in this important peacekeeping preparatory event that leads to the 2023 Peacekeeping Ministerial Conference, slated to take place in Accra, Ghana, from 5th to 6th December 2023. This event comes at a time when peacekeeping missions across the world are facing serious challenges in their deployment. These challenges are particularly acute with respect to the core task of protecting civilians in a context where disinformation, misinformation, and hate speech are being propagated faster than ever through social media platforms. One must also highlight that challenges to multidimensional peacekeeping missions are increasing with the proliferation of armed groups, many of them acting as peace spoilers, living off war economies, bent on sexual violence, organized crime, drug trafficking, to mention but a few. No single peacekeeping mission is free from these threats. In this context, managing the legitimate expectations of local populations is a challenge that affects all peacekeeping missions. Distinguished guests, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, hate speech is a uniquely dangerous phenomenon that requires our sustained attention and collective engagement. Hate speech reinforces discrimination, undermines social cohesion, and contributes to the marginalization and stigmatization of targeted communities based on ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, among many others. It creates a toxic environment that hinders a constructive dialogue. Right here in Rwanda, hate speech served as a precursor and enabler of mass killings and genocide. In 1994, the Tutsi of Rwanda experienced the devastating effects of disinformation and extremist propaganda mainstreamed by state-owned media in the silent presence of the international community. The disinformation, misinformation, and hate speech campaign was spearheaded by the then government officials whose remnants remain active today, notably under an armed group known as FDLR and its allies in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Their genocidal ideology is now directed against Congolese communities of Rwandan expression with the support of the host government and the presence of the international community. Little is being done to stop disinformation and hate speech despite several warnings, including that of a special advisor of the Secretary General on Prevention of Genocide and the United Nations Human Rights Commission. Disinformation, misinformation, and hate speech exploit the advancement of technology to spread using social media, which is as useful to criminals as it is for peacekeepers. It is therefore up to us, the international community, to use technology more effectively as an enabler for mandate delivery in countering false messages and deconstructing false narratives to shape domestic and international perception about UN missions. The integration of strategic communication with protection of civilians and other peace support activities is therefore a necessity in all lines of mandate delivery. Indeed, the unprecedented wave of disinformation, misinformation, and hate speech targeting entire communities exploit the capacity gaps in strategic communication, eroding the trust and confidence of the local communities and undermining the peacekeepers' capacity to protect the endangered populations. We need to bridge these gaps through capacity building, digital literacy, and integrating strategic communication in our peace support operation at the strategic, operational, and tactical levels of command. In simple and clear terms, we must work to have an edge over the peace spoilers to protect civilians and achieve the mandated tasks successfully. Host nations should play a role in this process. Their ultimate responsibility to protect their citizens, maintain law and order, and promote a conducive environment for the restoration of peace should not be overlooked. The engagement of the international community through peace support interventions should not encourage the host government's dereliction of responsibility, nor should it be used as a scapegoat to divert attention away from state governance failures. Distinguished guests, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by stressing the critical importance of human element in addressing the challenges I have highlighted. Whatever sophisticated capabilities may be deployed, however much our strategic communication can be improved, peacekeepers cannot achieve much if they do not have the right mindset to act proactively and decisively in protecting civilians in danger. On this note, let me reaffirm that Rwanda will continue to deploy properly trained, skilled, and well-equipped personnel, commanders and staff armed with the right mindset to effectively protect civilians in their areas of responsibility and to confront misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech in close collaboration with the host nation and other stakeholders. In this context, I wish to emphasize the importance and timeliness of gatherings such as this preparatory conference. This international engagement not only present an opportunity for a practical stock-taking of action for peace initiatives, but also promote awareness among UN member states of the existing gaps between the actual needs and the country's pledges necessary to deliver the mandates. I trust that the panelists and the public participating in this event will help us unpack the two concepts selected for this conference, namely protection of civilians and strategic communications, to generate a clearer understanding of their practical implication, their mutual interdependence, and their complementarity. I cannot end my remarks without expressing my most sincere appreciation to the team of co-hosts and the United Nations Secretariat who worked tirelessly to make this event successful. I once again welcome you to Rwanda and hope you will have time to wander through our beautiful city and enjoy the hospitality of your Rwandan brothers and sisters. I wish you a pleasant stay in Rwanda and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister and our guest of honor, for those remarks. The next speaker is Mr. Just Flamand, the Director, Security Policy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Netherlands. You're welcome to the podium.
Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, Generals, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, and in particular Minister for Defence, Juvenal Marizamunda, thank you for your kind words. It's my first time here in Rwanda, in Kigali, and I feel already at home and between friends. So thank you so much for hosting this preparatory conference of UN peacekeeping here in Kigali. With the Netherlands being one of the co-organizers, I seize this opportunity to express my appreciation for our close partnership, especially when it comes to peacekeeping. This is already the second preparatory conference we organize together with Rwanda. I also wish to express my appreciation for Indonesia and the United Kingdom for this joint effort, and I'm delighted to see so many participants from so many countries and international organizations present today, as well as think tanks, civil society organizations, and community representatives. We have to do this together. We have a clear goal here during this conference, to recreate momentum for UN peacekeeping missions ahead of the upcoming Peacekeeping Ministerial meeting in Accra, Ghana on 5 and 6 December. And this momentum is necessary because the UN peacekeeping missions, as we know them, face more and more obstacles. UN peacekeeping missions differ from most other forms of international military interventions in that they need the consent of the parties to the conflict. And we all know that it is not always a given. Over the past 10 years, the Netherlands contributed substantially to MINUSMA. We sent our best people, special forces and critical enablers, attack and transport helicopters. And we contributed with expertise and capabilities to the establishment of a peacekeeping intelligence organization that provided the mission with the eyes and ears needed in the complex environment of northern Mali. And when the Dutch Lieutenant General Matthijssen served as force commander in 2022, we provided the C-130 transport airplane. But as the Minister of Defence just said, regardless of the level of equipment, technology or skills, multidimensional peacekeeping remains a huge challenge if you cannot secure the support from the authorities or the trust of the local population. And when you have to find ways to be effective in environments where new security actors operate or adapt to rapidly changing political context. And that means that we as countries committed to UN peacekeeping missions need to do better. We have to create new momentum. Two themes of particular importance in that regard are the topics of this PrepCon here in Kigali: protection of civilians and strategic communication. These two themes are important because these are essential to instill trust within the local communities we serve as peacekeepers. If we do not do this right, the UN in the end will lose its credibility and support. That means we have to talk to these communities, listen to their needs, engage with the people, and learning how to really put protection of civilians and STRATCOM theory into practice. Some of the societal challenges that countries with UN peacekeeping missions on their territory are not unique to those countries. Also in the Netherlands, we have communities and neighborhoods that experience various degrees of community tensions, suffer from organized crimes, and have low trust in state systems, in our own system. Drug crime is posing a formidable challenge for the Dutch police and judicial system. Also within our society, we sometimes struggle to learn how to communicate to, engage with, and serve our communities best. So the Netherlands has proudly taken up the role of champion of protection of civilians under UN Secretary General Action for Peacekeeping. So we are here together to address the challenges peacekeeping is confronted with, because we do not have all the answers individually. And we hope to learn from all the perspectives from across the world that are present here today and tomorrow in Kigali, particularly from the community representatives today here in this room. And there is work to be done regarding peacekeeping. Our independence evaluations section of the Dutch participation in the MINUSMA showed that we failed to provide the Dutch teams within the mission with sufficient knowledge of the UN, the French language, and the local context. Learning from our failures, being brutally honest with our own performance or lack thereof, is not a weakness. It's a key to improving the next generation of UN peacekeeping missions. And I believe that with this conference, we can make significant steps to improve protection of civilians and STRATCOM in our peacekeeping missions through cooperation, sharing knowledge, and our willpower to bring peace. And again, the presence of so many participants here tell me that there is a constructive approach to this effect. The Netherlands has been, is, and will remain a keen supporter of UN peacekeeping. During the Dutch membership of the Security Council in 2018, we have prioritized modernizing UN peace operations. And it was under the Dutch presidency of the UN Security Council that the UN Agenda for Peace was launched. And modernizing UN peace operations is still a top priority, as peace operations have to be able to adjust to a constantly changing and complex world. We have, for example, supported the establishment of the Comprehensive Planning and Performance Assessment System, the CPAS, an initiative through which the UN can better demonstrate whether and how its peacekeeping missions achieve impact based on data. And we will continue to support the implementations of recommendations for the different UN peacekeeping missions to improve their performance. I would like also to seize this opportunity to take a moment to express my gratitude to all those around the world who contribute and have contributed to peacekeeping missions. Especially in the light of the current complex situations, we know peace cannot be taken for granted. UNIFIL is currently literally in the crossfire. But also far away from the attentions of international media and heads of state and government, blue helmets provide an equally important and noble role in the many so-called forgotten crises. Let us particularly remember and honor those who have learned this by paying the ultimate price for peace. And when I make these remarks, I'm well aware that the vast majority of UN peacekeepers are deployed by Asian and African countries. And I owe the representatives here and their peacekeepers great and sincere gratitude. Around the world, it's they who bring Security Council mandates to life. And it's they who keep the peace, foster stability, and keep civilians safe. Goals we all share here today. And with that common task in mind, I wish you a thought-provoking, productive, and successful conference. 2 days full of active and frank discussions, I hope, and above all, leading to constructive and creative outcomes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Flamand, for your remarks. Last but not least, Madame Martha Pobi, the UN Assistant Secretary General for Africa. Welcome to the podium.
The Honourable Minister for Defence of Rwanda, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. Good morning. I thank you, and I want to stand and thank the government of Rwanda for the very warm reception to Kigali and to this preparatory conference, as we all look forward to fruitful discussions. And I'd like to thank also the speakers for their time and their expertise. I would like to also appreciate the hard work in preparation for this event by the co-hosts, the government of Rwanda, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Indonesia, and the United Kingdom. As we prepare for the ministerial in early December, we are looking collectively at some of the biggest questions in peacekeeping. In June, delegations gathered to discuss women in peacekeeping, pursuing gender parity in units, ensuring gender-responsive leadership, and addressing the unique challenges that women face. Then in July, we placed a spotlight on mental health and on the potential for using assessments and training to mitigate the psychological challenges experienced by peacekeepers. In August, we held a meeting on safety and security, looking at how technology and training can protect the life and well-being of our uniformed peacekeepers. This conference will cover the final 2 of the ministerial's 5 key themes: protection of civilians and strategic communications. Neither of these tasks are straightforward, but the successful execution of both is essential for the effectiveness of peace operations. For that reason, we urge you to carefully reflect on the best practices and the gaps that we discuss here in the next 2 days, because we depend on you to translate those into concrete pledges at the ministerial, which is now just 6 weeks away. The need for new pledges comes with new challenges. In my capacity as Assistant Secretary General for Africa, I have seen increasing instability fueled by the fragmentation of state authority, struggle for access to resources, and the flow of harmful information on social media and other communication channels. We have adapted our approaches in response to these shifts, but there is much more we need to do. And as I said 1 year ago to the Security Council, we need to recognize that purely security-oriented responses are increasingly proving insufficient. Truly holistic and integrated solutions must be based on a national vision and be inclusive. They must recognize the needs and contributions of all segments of society, including women and youth, as agents of peace and development. Now, I believe that these words are equally true today. The success of peacekeeping missions depends on positive, interactive, and constructive engagement with local populations and with the host society as a whole. For that reason, our commitments to improving protection of civilians and strategic communications will strongly impact the trajectory of our missions in the coming years. So I ask you today to take note of this conference's panel discussions as you consider pledges that can reinforce our work towards that goal. On protection of civilians, it is not lost on me that we are in Kigali today, where important principles regarding the responsibility of the international community to protect civilians were developed. The Kigali principles, endorsed by dozens of member states, have played a critical role in the development of POC norms. I would also like to appreciate the role of that Rwanda plays as the largest African contributor of troops to United Nations peacekeeping, consistently providing units and commanders who fundamentally understand and act on the Kigali principles. Protection of civilians is central to the mandates of our multidimensional peacekeeping missions, and they must be implemented through an integrated, comprehensive, whole-of-mission approach. This requires leveraging the full capabilities of missions, including the use of armed and unarmed approaches by civilians, police, and military components, alongside host state partners and UN agencies, funds, and programs, especially in transition contexts. Uniformed capabilities are critical for improving awareness of threats to civilians in coordination with civilian components and translating the alerts into rapid response to prevent or halt incidents, as well as for engaging with local populations. Aviation, ISR, and deployment capacity to remote areas enable key protection tasks with support to military decision-making from gender and child protection advisors. Through community engagement, including the deployment of engagement teams and an increased number of female peacekeepers, we think that missions can obtain information on protection threats. Technology can help peacekeepers anticipate, prevent, and respond to threats to civilians, as well as to better engage local populations. New enabling technologies can support missions' POC efforts and help build collective mission capacity for data-driven, evidence-based analysis, planning, and decision-making. Protection of civilians can also be enhanced by improving and increasing pre-deployment training or training of trainers on the protection of civilians and related issues. Missions are seeking individual police officers with expertise in these fields, including sexual and gender-based violence, as well as experts on civilian harm mitigation to strengthen efforts to mitigate the risk to civilians before, during, and after military or police operations. To secure the necessary support to ensure mandate delivery and the security of peacekeepers, missions must engage effectively with local communities and other key stakeholders. And I think the two previous speakers have alluded to this very important factor. This engagement should be built on an understanding of the needs of the communities we serve and be proactive, interactive, and inclusive. In a rapidly evolving information ecosystem where misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech are rife, it is more important than ever that missions have comprehensive communication strategies that are aligned with political and security priorities, anticipate risk, help manage expectations, and establish accurate, clear, and compelling narratives about the mission's activities and impact. While strategic communications is on the front line of efforts to prevent and respond to information harms, we must build capacities across mission components to ensure a robust whole-of-mission approach to monitoring, analyzing, reporting, and responding. Uniformed personnel play a crucial role in engaging with communities, detecting the emergence of false information and malicious narratives, and informing mission responses. It is vital that TCCs, PCCs deploy officers with specialist strategic communications expertise and experience to work alongside civilian teams, and that pre-deployment training in strategic communications and disinformation is provided to all personnel. To adequately understand and respond to risks, missions also need expertise and technological capabilities in monitoring and analysis of the digital information environment, open source and data analysis. In this regard, we are seeking to build and expand upon a current UN initiative to develop a tool for cross-platform monitoring and analysis. Excellencies, we have come together today to discuss both protection of civilians and strategic communications because they must complement each other. Effective protection of civilians enables the mission's ability to establish trust, gain credibility among the population we serve, and counter mis and disinformation. Community engagement carried out by both uniformed and civilian components is central to POC efforts, as missions can enhance their capacity to protect civilians by fostering trust and acquiring valuable information that contributes to the creation of a protective environment. In parallel, effective strategic communications enhances awareness of how civilians may be protected by peacekeepers and manages perceptions on any shortcomings in mission performance vis-à-vis POC. Furthermore, public information tools can help to promote respect for peace, human rights, and reconciliation, while discouraging any acts of violence against civilians or against UN presence. Peacekeepers and mission leadership frequently encounter circumstances that require attention to both protection and communication. These include crowd management, liaison with local community leaders, issuing public statements and warnings, reacting to imminent threats, and everyday interactions with civilian populations. This is in addition to the myriad preparatory measures and support activities that enable these actions. Our peacekeepers continue to face obstacles in carrying out their responsibilities, and therefore we must equip them with the requisite training, expertise, and physical resources. In conclusion, Excellencies, peacekeeping missions are facing challenges that hinder their ability to achieve their mandates and to remain effective. Collectively, with contributions of capabilities that are not only robust, but also target specific needs, we can meet those challenges. This is the reason why we're gathered here today. And to ensure that everyone present can achieve a strong grasp of those needs, I encourage participants to use this platform to dive into issues, share good practices, explore practical and achievable solutions. We especially hope that the discussions will provide a strong groundwork for member state pledges, which should reflect the needs raised at these preparatory meetings and in the pledging guide. We urge you to make concrete pledges at the ministerial so that we can ensure a strong collective commitment to peacekeeping and pave the path ahead for its continued role in ensuring peace and security. We are sometimes discouraged by the recurring patterns of violence and instability in Africa and around the world. But I'm heartened to see the renewed commitments to peace by member states, partnerships, and we continue to work with our other partners, the African Union, Alliance of Sahel States, SADC, ECOWAS, in several settings. And this is not lost on us since we're meeting here in Kigali. The UN shares that responsibility. And during today's meeting, as well as the ministerial, we too have the opportunity to renew our collective commitments to peace. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, and I wish you excellent discussions in the next 2 days. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Martha, for those remarks. Join me once again in giving a round of applause to the three speakers for the excellent opening remarks. Next on our program is the group photo, which will include the following. We have the guest of honor, heads of delegation, the RDF Chief of Defense Staff, Excellencies, ambassadors, heads of security organs, Rwanda National Police, Rwanda Correction Services, United Nations Mission in South Sudan, Force Commander. I'll request other participants to remain seated as the officials mentioned proceed to the photo area for the group photo. Our protocol should help us to guide those officials to the photo area. Thank you very much.